815 Sports Podcast here, Cole and Jake. Today we're going to rank our top 5 greatest sports comebacks that we have seen or experienced. And Jake, you want to get us started?
Yeah, so number 5 on my list is the Chicago Bulls comeback in 2011 versus Indiana Pacers. That was in the D Rose Thibodeau era where the Bulls were never out of a game. It was a playoffs game 1. The Bulls were down by like 10 points with like 2.5, maybe 3 minutes left. And
is that when they had Paul George?
Yeah, that was when Indiana was really good. The Bulls are really good. D Rose went off in the late 2 minutes. He had an and one. I think he had a pass to Noah for a dunk. And the Bulls took their first lead of the game. So they didn't lead in that whole entire game. And their first lead of the game came from a Kyle Korver 3 with 48 seconds left to put the Bulls up by 3. And they would go on to win that game. And I think they took the series, 4-1. So
they went to the Eastern Conference Finals that year, right?
Yeah.
Lost to Miami.
That was a good year. So what's your number 5?
My number 5 is a March Madness game, Texas A&M and Northern Iowa. A&M had Alex Caruso, and they were down 12 with 44 seconds to Northern Iowa. And then they ended up scoring a layup, and they were down 10 after that with 30 seconds. They forced another steal on the inbounds to go down 8 with 25 seconds. Another steal again to go down 6 with 21 seconds. Daniel House, I don't know if you guys remember that name or not, but he played for the Rockets. I think he might still play for the Rockets, but I remember when they had Harden and Westbrook, he played for the Rockets. So he ended up drilling a 3 with 19 seconds left, and A&M was down 3. Northern Iowa then had a full court pass, ended up in a dunk, then went back up 5. Alex Caruso came down the court, got an and one, and A&M was down 2 after that. And they ended up forcing overtime and winning with they ended up forcing overtime with a second left to make it 71-71, and then they ended up winning overtime. And I remember watching that game live and on TV, and I thought they had no shot in hell to come back and win when they were down 12 with 40 seconds, because you never see that, hardly ever. So that's my number 5. We'll jump into Jake's number 4 here.
So my number 4 is the Miami Miracle comeback in 2018. The Dolphins had the ball at the 31-yard line with 6 or 7 seconds left, and at this rate, you have no idea what's going to happen. A lot of times, quarterbacks try to do too much, get sacked, throw a deep ball, don't get caught. The Dolphins tried something different that game. They threw it to like the 50-yard line to Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills then shuttled it to Devontae Parker, who shuttled it to Kenyon Drake. And then the famous saying is Gronk didn't have the angle, touchdown Miami. And they win 34-33, and it was, as Cole says, bedlam. I don't even remember what I did, but I think I probably had a stroke. I probably played the Dolphins fight song 100 times, and that was one of the greatest Dolphin moments for me. And the Patriots, that was a win. If they win that game, they clinched the division. So the Dolphins didn't allow that. They probably did the next week or two, but they didn't allow them to clinch the division in Miami. And that was a pretty good game. Probably one of the best comebacks in Dolphins history. I mean, even though they were only down 6, but with 6 seconds left, you should lose.
Well, they had to go the whole field. What was it, 80 yards basically?
Yeah, well, at the 31-yard line, so basically, 60. But still.
So I know you got some here ranked above, but was that probably just the most insane, 10 to 15 seconds you've seen in your sports life?
Yeah, just because the anticipation, you're watching it unfold, and you're like, there's no way he's going to keep going. Got to go all the way down the field. Like, you could make it to the 10-yard line and then get tackled, and all that means nothing. But he made it to the end zone, and it was just it felt like 25 minutes of me screaming and losing my voice, and then
probably a headache.
Yeah, everything.
Probably gave yourself a headache.
But that was incredible.
So my number 4, the Colts comeback against Kansas City in 2014 when they had Alex Smith as their quarterback. So at the beginning of the second quarter, the Colts were down 24-7, and things were not going their way. They had a bunch of turnovers. They ended up, I think at halftime it was 2-0 in turnovers. The Colts had 2 turnovers. Chiefs had 0. And at halftime it was 31-10, so they were down 21. And Kansas City doubled them in all categories. In yards, they had 0 turnovers. The Colts 2, and they had almost 19 first downs to the Colts 9. And when they come out of the half, the Colts got the ball, and Andrew Luck immediately threw a pick to start the half. And Kansas City scored, and they're up 38-10. So at that point, a Colts fan in the playoffs, you probably think, well, the game's over. It's the third quarter. We're down 28. But after that, Robert Mathis came around for the Colts, forced a fumble. The Colts would go on then to score. And after that forced fumble, things changed right there. The Colts ended up outscoring them 35-6 to eventually take the lead and win 45-44 late in the fourth quarter with their first lead the whole game.
Incredible.
It was incredible to watch, and I remember, because at that point in time, the Chiefs were led by Jamal Charles, and he ended up getting hurt on like the first or second play of the game, and they had Dwayne Bowie and all those guys, and it was just a really great game to watch. And you never would have thought the Colts would come back and win, but
never.
They did. So we'll jump into Jake's number 3 here.
All right, so my number 3 is another Chicago Bulls game in the Tom Thibodeau era. This one comes in 2013, the Bulls playoff comeback. I think it was game 4, and they didn't have Derrick Rose that entire series. The Bulls were down 109-95 with about 3 minutes left in the game, and then I don't think Nate Robinson missed a shot the rest of the game, the rest of the overtime, double overtime, triple overtime. I think he eventually fouled out in triple overtime. But the Bulls ended up winning 142-134. Nate Robinson had 34 points, and I just remember watching it, and those Bulls teams with Tom Thibodeau, they just seemed like they never gave up. They were always down. They were always undermanned. They
always overperformed.
Always overperformed. They didn't really have much, and they just They found ways to win, and the Bulls go up. That made the Bulls go up 3-1 in the series. I think they won. They lost the next 2, and then it was tied. So then they have to go to Brooklyn and to win Game 7 without your best player, and they did it pretty easily. And I don't remember the outcome of the rest of the season for them in the playoffs, but that comeback was pretty insane. A lot of people had left the game. I remember there being open seats, and
that was in Brooklyn too, I think.
No, this comeback was at the United Center, Game 4.
Oh,
but it was incredible, and that's one moment I'll always remember.
I always enjoyed watching Nate Robinson.
He
was a stud.
He was.
My number 3 comeback last year, I'm sure a lot of you watched this game. OU against Texas. The biggest game all season normally for Oklahoma and Texas, especially for Texas since they never do anything else in the postseason. So OU was immediately down 14-0 after, I think it was about a 75-yard touchdown pass right off the opening gate to Xavier Worthy, and then not too long after that, they scored again. It was 14-0. And Rattler was having a tough game, just like he did the following year in the Red River rivalry game. And he ended up throwing a brutal pick after we did end up scoring to make it 14-7. Then after that, Texas scored another 2 touchdowns, go up 28-7. Rattler had a terrible throw for an interception. There was nobody there. Caleb Williams comes in. It's a 4th and 1. He takes it 66 yards to the house. And that's basically, at that point, everybody who's no U fan thinks, why the hell isn't this kid playing? So then Rattler comes back in after that. Lincoln Riley, for some reason, won't let Williams just come in after that. So we have to see another few possessions from Rattler. He later then fumbles after we cut it to 28-17. And then Texas goes up by another touchdown. So it's 35-17 now. And we finally, after that fumble, Williams comes back in and things start to change a little bit. So there were a few field goals And then we start to see the Williams magic with Marvin Mims. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw that throw, the sideline there. Mims barely keeps his foot in to score a touchdown. So the first one, though, Williams drops the snap, gets it, comes back, throws a dart to Marvin Mims, who makes it 41-30. And then Texas didn't score there. We ended up getting a field goal the next possession to make it 41-33. Williams comes out, throws that bomb to Marvin Mims down the sideline for a touchdown. The place goes insane. Rattler comes in, throws a 2-point conversion to Drake Stoops, and it's 41-41. And then on that ensuing kickoff, after we scored the touchdown, Caleb Kelly forces a fumble on the kickoff. We go in and score. It's 48-41. Texas comes back downfield. They throw another touchdown pass to Xavier Worthy, who absolutely stacked his stat sheet that game. It's 48-48 with just over a minute left. OU's taking their sweet time, getting down the field. And at this point, you think they're just going to, get a few more yards to take a field goal. But we end up handing it off to Kennedy Brooks, and he goes 33 yards for a touchdown, and we end up winning that game. And what, for me personally, was the most exciting football game I've ever seen. And I've seen some great ones, but that was the best that I've seen.
Why are those games are always like that? It seems like there's no defense and it's a shootout.
Yeah,
it's always that game.
Yeah, and it's always a great game too.
Yeah. Do you know the the record versus in that game, OU versus Texas?
No, I think OU leads it by just a brief.
Yeah.
But in the past decade, OU's been dominating the past decade.
So
yeah, I'll have to do some research on that. But hopefully this year I'll make it out to that game. I plan on going, so we'll see. Jake here at number 2.
I'm sure a lot of yous will remember this comeback. I don't know. I mean, you'd have to be probably a little bit over 20 because it happened in 2005, but it's probably –
I was 4. I didn't remember.
It's probably one of the greatest sports moments, comebacks, whatever, that will ever go down in my life. It was the 2005 Elite Eight, Illinois over Arizona to go to the Final Four. And Illinois was down 75-60 with 4 minutes left. And in college basketball, you can hold the ball for quite a while. So basically, Arizona just needed to play keep away, and they win. But it's March Madness. I understand things happen. You get turnovers. People miss free throws. But Darren Williams just made 3 after 3. I think Luther Head hit one. And it went into overtime. I just can remember watching the highlights and the guy saying, and Williams to tie it with the 3. He does. And then it was actually played at DePaul. The game was played in DePaul, so it was probably 95% Illini orange. And the anticipation with that 3 in the air and then just the that was let out after it was incredible. And then in overtime, Williams again hitting 3s. In Arizona, I think the final score was 90-89 because they missed a 3. It clanked off the backboard and didn't even hit the rim. And I just remember hearing the announcer screaming 25 times, Illinois is going to the Final Four. And somebody said if security wouldn't allow them on the court, it would be like a bull rush because the fans wanted to get on the court, but they didn't allow it. But that comeback, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure a lot of you have, look it up because you'll get goosebumps.
Hopefully pretty soon we get to see Illinois get to a Final Four.
Yeah.
And that was back when the shot, you were talking earlier, that was back when the shot clock was 40 seconds.
Yeah, so I don't even know how you blow a 15-point lead. Like, you just have to play keep away.
Number 2, I'm sure you guys have seen, they made a movie with Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore, and I've seen it numerous
Fever
times.
Pitch.
Yeah, great movie. Watched it 30 for 30 on it a few times, but the Red Sox being down 3-0 in the series to the Yankees, the Red Sox thought that they had probably no shot really as a fan for them to come back, and it was the curse of Babe Ruth trading him, and it had been 86 years since they had won.
Yep.
And they ended up coming back and winning it, but game 4 they were down 4-3 in the ninth, so you think you're going to get swept. Dave Roberts gets on, steals the second base in the ninth. Place goes insane. Next guy comes up, singles. They tie it. Ortiz comes up, hits a bomb, and he hits a walk-off there. They win Game 4 to go down 3-1. So a little bit of life. And then Game 5 comes around. Ortiz walks it off again in Game 5 for them to be down 3-2 in the series. And then Kurt Schilling comes in and pitches on a bad ankle. And if you look it up, you can see he's got some blood and tape all over it. It was bad. He comes in, he pitches a great game in Game 6 to force a Game 7. And from that point, Red Sox just dominated Game 7.
Game 7 in
New York.
Bronx? Yeah.
New York, yep. And I wish that I would have been able – I was only 3 at the time, but I wish, being able to see that live as it transpired was probably amazing. Hopefully someday we get to see something like that, which we actually did because we got the Cubs at number 1. So talking about that, that's my greatest comeback of all time, and I'm sure that is probably Jake's too.
Yeah, we agree on that, number 1. The Cubs down 3-1. I just can remember thinking that life's not going to go on, like, for me, if the Cubs, that's how much I like sports and love the Cubs. And there was no hope. You just felt like everything that people had said about the Cubs in the past was true, because here they get there, and they got this great team. They got their records 10 games better than Cleveland in the regular season.
MVP.
Their favorites, everything. Arrieta, what he did that year. Bryant, Joe Madden, manager of the year. That was their year, and then it wasn't. They were down 3-1.
They lost that game at home to go down 3-1 too.
Yeah. Then they come back in Game 4 or Game 5, and they're losing the entire game until Chris Bryant hits a home run. I don't remember the inning. It might have been the 4th or 5th. And it wasn't a bomb. I think it was like the first or second row in the bleachers. And then from there, the Cubs they score. In Game 6, they score 9 runs and win 9-3. In Game 7, they score 8 runs and win 8-7. And there will never be a greater week in sports for me than watching them win 3 games in a row to finally win the World Series and end the Billy Goat curse, all the Black Cat, the Steve Bartman, that because in 2003 the Cubs would have beat the Yankees in the World Series, and they finally did it. And I don't know if you got anything to say.
Yeah, I do. And then, really, a lot of I thought that it wasn't going to happen for the Cubs.
No.
There were a lot of moments where I'm like, well, we're cursed.
Yeah.
And
yep.
It started for me with, the way that Joe Madden was using Chapman. A lot of people talk about the way he misused him there in Game 5. He used him the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And, Chapman, he shut everybody down, really. And Game 6, Cubs won pretty well in dominating fashion, 9-3, forced Game 7. Obviously, 108 years in the making. But Game 7 was a roller coaster. It started out, Fowler hits the home run.
Cubs are up big.
Yeah, they were up big.
They're thinking it's over.
And then, Lester comes in, has that pitch, hits Ross in the face mask.
Yeah.
Seems like he almost got knocked out.
They scored 2
for
runs
a
on
second.
a pass ball.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Then that's when you know that, well, maybe this is not meant to be. Maybe the Cubs just are cursed. Maybe they just can't win.
Yeah. And that was the first instance for me. There's another one.
I don't even want to hear it.
So then Ross ends up hovering later in that game to make it 6-3. Madden continues to overuse Chapman. And that is when Rajai Davis hit that homer to left field. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. We're never winning the World Series.
I don't care what anyone says. I cried. I was 19 years old, and I probably acted like a 4-year-old. Rajai Davis' home run down the left field line was just no words. I had about 30 people at the house, and
it's almost like a sucker punch. Took the air out of you.
It was like church. And then a lot of people forget this, but Chapman, we went on a rain delay, obviously. Everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm.
But Chapman came back out after a rain delay and mowed down, the bottom of the 9th. And then we go to extras. And
Zobrist doubled to make it 7-6.
Yeah, and then Schwarber.
Montero single makes it 8-6. And then obviously we win 8-7 because they came back in the bottom of the 10th.
Yeah, what was 8-6 in the bottom of the 10th, and of course they got to get a run and have a guy on. Of course it's not got to be easy.
Yeah.
But Mike Montgomery, I think was right. He was on the mound, and a ball was hit to Chris Bryant. He ran in on it, and the field was wet, so his foot slipped. I think his left foot slipped, and if you're watching, the ball looks like it's going to sail over Rizzo's head into the freaking bleachers, and Rizzo's a little bit taller, and he stretched and got it, and you just felt like
you felt relief.
Really, I don't even know if that's the right word. I don't know a word that you could feel for that because, and you don't even know how to celebrate because you've never been able to celebrate it. But I just remember pots and pans and stuff getting thrown in the air and running outside, acting like a fool, banging stuff, loud music, just everything.
Yeah. Personally, yeah, both of us, our greatest comeback of all time. You guys, well, we'll do some honorable mentions. Obviously, not a fan of Tom Brady, but the fact that they came back from down 28-3 to the Falcons is one of the most impressive comebacks of all time. Some of Rodgers' comebacks against Dallas in the playoffs, he threw that pass to Jared Cook, and they ended up making the field goal last year against San Francisco in the regular season when there was only 30 seconds left, and he dropped a few dimes, kick a field goal, and win. The one against Detroit with the Hail Mary to Richard Rodgers in the end zone. Those are just some that come to mind for me. But
yeah, I just tried sticking with the teams around this area for all you guys that maybe you guys would know. But there's tons of comebacks that we could have put on there that are better than these. There ain't one better than the Cubs, but there are some better than the ones we had.
Yeah.
But we just tried sticking around this area so that you guys could maybe remember them too.
And everyone's got their own opinions, so let us know in the comments what you guys think are some of your top 5 greatest comebacks. And make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be getting another video out to you guys next week. So have a good Memorial Day weekend.
Yep.